The gilded prison Marcus Blackwood stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his Manhattan penthouse, watching the city lights twinkle 40 stories below. At 35, he commanded a technology empire worth $12 billion. Yet the reflection staring back at him looked hollow, tired. His phone buzzed with another message from his assistant about tomorrow's charity auction. Another evening of forced smiles, strategic conversations, and women who saw dollar signs instead of a man. He'd learned this lesson the hard way 3 years ago when his ex-fiancée, Amanda, had sold their private photos to tabloids after their breakup, claiming he was emotionally unavailable while pocketing $2 million from the exclusive story. The irony wasn't lost on him. Growing up in Detroit's poorest neighborhood, he'd dreamed of having enough money to buy his mother the medicine she needed. By the time his tech startup made him wealthy, she was gone. Now he had more money than he could spend in 10 lifetimes, but every relationship felt like a business transaction. His housekeeper, Mrs. Chen, knocked softly. "Mr. Blackwood, dinner is ready." "Thank you, but I'm not hungry," he replied, not turning from the window. She lingered in the doorway. "You know, sir, my grandmother used to say that a full bank account can't fill an empty heart." Marcus almost smiled. Mrs. Chen was the only person who dared speak to him like that. She'd worked for him for 5 years, never asking for anything beyond her salary, never treating him differently despite his wealth. "Your grandmother sounds wise," he said. She was. She also said that when you build walls too high, you forget how to open the door. After she left, Marcus poured himself a scotch and settled into his leather chair. Tomorrow's auction would raise money for underprivileged children's education, a cause close to his heart given his background. But it would also be another reminder of how alone he truly was. He thought about the women who'd be there: Victoria Sterling, the oil heiress who collected billionaires like handbags; Cassandra Vale, the social media influencer with 8 million followers and zero substance; Priya Sharma, the ambitious corporate lawyer who saw him as her next career move; and Natalie Cross, the artist whose paintings were beautiful but whose interest in him was transparently financial. They all wanted something from him. They always did. As he finished his drink, an idea began forming. Tomorrow night, he would conduct a little experiment. He would test their true intentions once and for all. In his safe lay a collection of rare Colombian emerald jewelry sets, each worth more than most people's houses. Perfect bait for those who saw him as nothing more than a bank account with a pulse. Maybe then he'd finally have proof that genuine love was just another fairy tale he'd outgrown. The Golden Gamble. The grand ballroom of the Plaza Hotel sparkled with crystal chandeliers and the glint of diamonds adorning New York's elite. Marcus Blackwood moved through the crowd with practiced ease, his tailored tuxedo impeccable, his smile perfectly calibrated for each handshake and air kiss. The annual Children's Future Foundation Gala was in full swing, and pledges were already exceeding expectations. "Marcus, darling." Victoria Sterling glided toward him, her red Valentino gown hugging curves that had graced magazine covers. The oil heiress had inherited her fortune at 25 and spent the last decade perfecting the art of strategic socializing. "This cause is so close to my heart." "Children are our future, aren't they?" Marcus nodded politely, knowing Victoria had never worked a day involving children in her life. Over her shoulder, he spotted Cassandra Vale adjusting her pose for yet another selfie. The social media star had built her empire on lifestyle content and carefully curated authenticity. Her followers hung on every word, every product placement, every glimpse into her aspirational life. "Marcus." Cassandra bounded over, phone still in hand. "This venue is absolutely gorgeous. My followers would die for a behind-the-scenes peek. Maybe we could do a little collaboration? For charity, of course." Before he could respond, Priya Sharma approached with her characteristic confidence. The corporate lawyer had made partner at 32 by being ruthless in negotiations and strategic in her alliances. Her sleek black dress was understated elegance, her smile sharp as a blade. "Impressive turnout tonight," Priya said, her dark eyes scanning the room. "I've been thinking about that merger proposal you mentioned last month. Perhaps we could discuss it over dinner this week." The fourth member of his unofficial test group appeared as if summoned. Natalie Cross, the abstract expressionist whose paintings sold for six figures, wore a flowing emerald dress that complemented her artistic persona. She'd been cultivating their acquaintance for months, dropping hints about a major exhibition that needed funding. "Marcus, I've been dying to show you the new pieces for my upcoming show," Natalie said, touching his arm lightly. "They're inspired by urban isolation and the search for authentic connection. Very relevant to your own journey, I think." As the evening progressed, Marcus watched these four women circle him like elegant sharks. Each conversation felt choreographed, each laugh perfectly timed, each touch calculated for maximum impact. By the time the formal auction concluded, he'd made his decision. He excused himself and retrieved a leather case from the hotel's secure storage. Inside lay 4 sets of emerald jewelry, necklaces, earrings, and bracelets, each carved from single Colombian emeralds and surrounded by flawless diamonds. The collection had cost him $8 million, but tonight it would serve a different purpose. Returning to the ballroom's private lounge where the 4 women were enjoying champagne, Marcus set the case on the marble table. Their conversation stopped mid-sentence. "Ladies, I have something special to share," he said, opening the case with theatrical flair. The emeralds caught the light like captured stars, and he watched their pupils dilate with want. "These belong to my grandmother, the only woman who ever loved me for who I was, not what I had." The lie came easily. His grandmother had died when he was 12, owning nothing but a worn wedding ring. "I've decided to give these away tonight, to women who understand their true value," he continued. "Please, each of you choose 1 set. Consider it a token of my appreciation for your friendship." Victoria's manicured fingers moved first, selecting the largest necklace without hesitation. "How incredibly generous, Marcus. This will look perfect with my Cartier collection." Cassandra grabbed the most ornate earrings, already angling them for her phone's camera. "Oh my God, these are going to be amazing for content." "My followers will absolutely die." Priya chose the bracelet with the most intricate setting, her lawyer's eye assessing its value instantly. "Exquisite craftsmanship." "You have impeccable taste as always." Natalie claimed the remaining set, holding the necklace up to the light. "The way the emeralds capture light. It's like holding liquid poetry. They'll inspire my next series for sure." Marcus closed the empty case with a soft click, his heart hardening with each predictable response. They'd all passed his test and failed completely. The unexpected choice, as the evening wound down, Marcus stood alone in the hotel's service corridor, needing air that didn't smell of expensive perfume and false promises. The charity auction had been a success. $3 million raised for children's education, but he felt more hollow than ever. His experiment had confirmed what he'd already known. Every relationship in his life was transactional. "Excuse me, sir, are you all right?" He turned to find a young woman in the black uniform of the catering staff, holding a tray of empty champagne glasses. She couldn't have been more than 25, with warm brown eyes and dark hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. Unlike the women he'd just tested, she wore no jewelry, no designer gown, no practiced smile. "I'm fine," Marcus replied automatically, then found himself actually looking at her. "Long evening." "I imagine so," she said softly. "I'm Rosa Martinez. I work for Elegant Events. We're handling the catering tonight." "You're Mr. Blackwood, right? I saw your speech about education funding. It was real, like you actually cared about those kids." Something in her tone made him pause. "You sound surprised." Rosa shifted the tray to one hip, seeming to consider her words. "Most of the speeches tonight felt rehearsed. Yours didn't. My little brother Miguel is in one of the programs your foundation supports. His teacher says he's the smartest kid she's ever taught, but without the after-school program..." She trailed off, shaking her head. "Sorry, I shouldn't be talking your ear off. You probably want to get back to your guests." "Actually, I don't," Marcus admitted. An impulse struck him. The same reckless instinct that had made him a successful entrepreneur. "Rosa, I wonder if you could help me with something." He pulled out the small velvet box he'd kept in reserve, a 5th emerald set, even more valuable than the others. Rosa's eyes widened as he opened it, revealing a necklace that seemed to hold moonlight within its depths. I'm conducting a little experiment tonight, Marcus explained. 4 women just chose jewelry from my collection. I'm curious, what would you choose? Rosa stared at the necklace for a long moment, then gently closed the box and placed it back in his hands. Her fingers were warm against his, calloused from work but steady. Mr. Blackwood, she said quietly, this is beautiful, and I'm sure it costs more money than my family will see in a lifetime. But if you're testing people with jewelry, you're asking the wrong question. What do you mean? She glanced around the opulent corridor, with its gold leaf molding and crystal sconces. All this wealth, all these beautiful things. They're nice, but they're not what makes someone rich. My abuela used to clean houses for rich families, and you know what she told me? She said the loneliest people she ever met lived in the biggest houses with the most expensive things. Marcus felt something shift inside his chest. Like ice cracking, Rosa continued, her voice gentle but unwavering. You want to test someone's heart? Don't offer them gold. Offer them your time. Offer them your trust. Offer them the parts of yourself you're afraid to show anyone else. That's when you'll know who really sees you. She picked up her tray again, preparing to leave. And Mr. Blackwood, if you're testing people, it means you're looking for something real. That tells me your heart isn't as closed off as you might think. As she walked away, Marcus stood alone in the corridor, holding the unopened jewelry box. For the first time in years, he felt truly seen, not by someone who wanted his money, his influence, or his status, but by someone who had looked past all of that and recognized the lonely man underneath. Rosa Martinez had given him something far more valuable than the emeralds in his hand. She had given him hope. The Awakening. 3 days after the gala, Marcus found himself doing something he hadn't done in years. Questioning everything. He sat in his corner office on the 42nd floor, staring at financial reports without seeing them. Rosa's words echoed in his mind like a song he couldn't shake. Sir? His assistant, David, knocked and entered. The quarterly board meeting is in 20 minutes. Cancel it, Marcus said, surprising them both. Sir? Reschedule for next week. I need to take care of something. For the first time in his career, Marcus left his empire to run itself while he drove to Queens. The address had been easy enough to find. Rosa Martinez, apartment 4B in a modest building near the subway station. He'd told himself he was simply curious about the woman who had refused a fortune. But standing outside her door, he realized he was nervous in a way he hadn't felt since his first business pitch. Rosa answered on the second knock, still in scrubs from her day job at Mount Sinai Hospital. Her surprise was genuine. Mr. Blackwood, is everything okay? I wanted to apologize, he said, then paused. And to ask you something. Could we talk? Maybe over coffee? She studied his face for a moment, then grabbed her jacket. There's a diner down the block. Fair warning, it's nothing like what you're probably used to. The Sunrise Diner had seen better decades, with cracked vinyl booths and fluorescent lighting that flickered. Marcus had eaten in Michelin-starred restaurants across the globe, but something about this place felt more real than all of them combined. They sat across from each other in a corner booth, 2 cups of surprisingly good coffee between them. You work at the hospital? Marcus asked. Rosa nodded. Night shift, usually. I'm studying to become a registered nurse. The catering job helps pay for classes and supports my family. She traced the rim of her coffee cup. My parents came here from El Salvador with nothing but hope and determination. They taught me that dignity comes from how you treat people, not from what you own. You mentioned a brother? Her face lit up. Miguel. He's 14 and absolutely brilliant. Wants to be an engineer. Your foundations program is the only reason he can access advanced math classes. She looked directly at him. So thank you. Really. You're changing his life. Marcus felt something warm unfold in his chest. When was the last time someone had thanked him for something that wasn't business-related? What made you become a nurse? He asked. When I was 16, my grandmother had a heart attack. The nurse who took care of her, she didn't just treat the medical emergency. She held Abuela's hand, spoke to her in Spanish, made her feel human instead of just another patient. I decided that night that I wanted to be that person for others. They talked for 2 hours. Rosa told him about her dreams of opening a free clinic in underserved communities. Marcus found himself sharing stories he'd never told anyone, about his mother's illness, about the loneliness that came with success, about the weight of always being seen as a bank account instead of a person. "The women at the gala," Marcus said as they prepared to leave. "They all chose the jewelry without hesitation." "Of course they did," Rosa replied. "You offered them exactly what they thought you wanted to give." "But Marcus," she used his first name so naturally it made his heart skip, "you were testing them with the wrong currency. People who love you for money will always choose money. People who love you for you will choose you." Walking her back to her building, Marcus felt lighter than he had in years. At her door, Rosa turned to him with a smile that was worth more than all his emeralds combined. "Would you like to meet Miguel sometime?" she asked. "He's working on a robotics project for school. I think you two would get along." Marcus nodded, not trusting his voice. As he drove back to Manhattan, he realized that Rosa had done something remarkable. She'd made him want to be worthy of her respect, not her desire for his wealth. For the first time in his adult life, Marcus Blackwood was falling in love with someone who saw him as more than his net worth. The true treasure. 6 months later, Marcus stood in the gymnasium of Roosevelt Middle School in Queens, watching Miguel Martinez explain his solar-powered water filtration system to a panel of judges. The 14-year-old's passion reminded Marcus of his own younger self, full of dreams and determination despite limited resources. "He's incredible," Marcus whispered to Rosa, who beamed with pride beside him. "He gets that from our parents," she replied, squeezing his hand. "They taught us that brilliance isn't limited by circumstances." Their relationship had grown slowly, built on coffee shop conversations and family dinners, hospital visits during Rosa's breaks, and quiet evenings helping Miguel with homework. Marcus had learned to value moments over money, presence over presence. He'd also learned that Rosa's refusal to accept expensive gifts wasn't about pride, it was about integrity. The first time he'd tried to buy her something lavish, she'd gently redirected him to donate the money to the Children's Foundation instead. "Love isn't proven by price tags," she'd said. "It's proven by showing up." And show up he had. When Rosa's father needed surgery, Marcus was there in the waiting room at 3 a.m. When Miguel's school needed computers for their science lab, Marcus quietly arranged for them to be donated. When Rosa worked double shifts during flu season, he learned to cook her favorite comfort food, his penthouse kitchen finally serving a purpose beyond impressing guests. "Ladies and gentlemen," the judge announced, "first place in the regional science fair goes to Miguel Martinez." Marcus cheered as loudly as anyone, watching the boy's face light up with joy. Later, at the celebration dinner Rosa's mother had insisted on hosting, Marcus found himself surrounded by a different kind of wealth, a table full of people who loved unconditionally. "Mijo," Rosa's father, Carlos said to Marcus in his careful English, "You want to know the secret to happiness?" Marcus nodded, genuinely curious. Carlos gestured around the modest apartment where 3 generations of the Martinez family were squeezed around a table meant for 4, sharing homemade tamales and stories. "Is not what you have in your bank, is what you have in your heart, and who you choose to share it with." That evening, as Marcus walked Rosa home from her nursing classes, she noticed he seemed deep in thought. "What's on your mind?" she asked. Marcus stopped walking and turned to face her. From his pocket, he pulled not a jewelry box but a folded piece of paper. "What's this?" Rosa asked, unfolding it. "The deed to a building in your neighborhood," Marcus said quietly. "It used to be a community center. I was thinking, maybe it could be again. Maybe it could house that free clinic you've been dreaming about." Rosa's eyes filled with tears. "Marcus, I know you don't like expensive gifts," he continued, "but this isn't about money. It's about your dreams, our dreams. I want to build something meaningful with you, Rosa. Not because I think you'll love me more, but because loving you has made me want to be someone worthy of the love you already give." She threw her arms around him, and Marcus realized that this, holding someone who loved him, not despite his flaws but because of his efforts to be better, was worth more than all the gold in the world. A year later, the Marcus and Rosa Community Health Center opened its doors, providing free medical care to underserved families. Miguel, now in high school on a full scholarship Marcus had established, volunteered there on weekends. Victoria, Cassandra, Priya, and Natalie still attended charity galas, still collected expensive jewelry, still searched for wealthy men to complete their collections. But Marcus had learned the truth Rosa had tried to teach him that night in the hotel corridor. Real wealth wasn't measured in what you could buy, but in what you chose to build. And the greatest treasure of all was finding someone who helped you build not just a fortune, but a life worth living. In the end, the woman who had refused his gold had given him something infinitely more precious, the chance to discover that his heart was worth more than his wealth, and that true love was the one investment that only grew richer when shared.